Long ago, in the green valley of Indira, there lived a wise and powerful king named Baruti. His kingdom stretched far beyond the mountains, and traders from distant lands came to buy spices, gold, and fine cloth. His people praised his name, and his warriors swore loyalty until death. But Baruti had a troubled heart. He sat alone in the great palace, under golden roofs and walls covered with carvings of his victories. He had wealth, land, and power, but one thing he did not have was trust. Do they obey me because they respect me, he asked himself, or because they fear my crown? No one gave him a clear answer. His advisors always said, "The people love you, my king." But Baruti had seen people smile in front of him, then spit on his name when they thought he could not hear. "I must know the truth," he said one morning. So he made a secret plan. He would leave the palace in disguise. He would walk among his people, not as a king, but as a poor slave with no name, no gold, and no crown. Only two people knew about his plan. One was his most trusted guard, Juma. The other was old Mama Kinna, the palace cook who had raised him like her own son. The rest of the palace thought he had gone to visit another city. Baruti removed his royal robes. He washed away the scented oils and covered his skin with dust. He wore torn clothes, tied a rope around his waist, and walked out of the palace gates with nothing but a walking stick. He became a stranger in his own kingdom. The king walked into the village of Kambesa, where farmers lived and goats roamed the hills. He asked for a place to sleep. An old man pointed to the floor under a mango tree. "Sleep there," the man said, "but you must work in the morning." So Baruti worked. He fetched water, swept the compound, and carried firewood. His hands grew sore, but he did not complain. He wanted to see how his people treated the poor. Some were kind. A woman with a crying baby gave him warm porridge without asking for payment. "You look hungry," she said. "Eat." Others were cruel. A merchant slapped him for walking too slow, threw stones at him, and called him a worthless dog. A village chief refused to let him rest in the shade of his tree. "You stink," the chief said. "Go sleep with the pigs." Baruti said nothing, but he remembered every face. He stayed in Kambesa for a week, moving from one house to another. He watched the people. He listened to their talk. "I hear the king sits on gold while we eat dust," one man said. "But he protects us from war," another replied. "He protects himself," the first man said. "When has he ever walked among us?" Baruti looked down. "Now I have," he whispered to himself. The king who had once slept on silk now lay on the cold earth. In the town of Narawa, there was a market where poor men were bought to work as slaves in distant fields. Baruti went there to see how cruel people could be. A rich man looked at Baruti and laughed. "This one is weak. I'll pay 3 coins. Another said, "He won't last a day in the sun." "I'm not for sale," Baruti said. They laughed again. "Then why are you here?" "Only beggars come to this market." Baruti stood firm. "I came to see who still has a heart." A woman named Dira stepped forward. She wore simple clothes and had a basket of oranges. She gave him a coin. "I don't buy men," she said. "But here, use this to buy food." Baruti looked into her eyes. They were tired but kind. He nodded. "Thank you." Dira took him to her home and let him sleep near her goats. She gave him yam soup and asked nothing in return. She said, "My brother went to the palace to ask for help last year. They turned him away." "What did he want?" Baruti asked. "He wanted medicine for his sick son. He died 2 weeks later." Baruti looked at the floor. "I'm sorry." "He was just a farmer," she said. "Not important to kings." Baruti said nothing, but in his heart he made a promise. After a month of walking among his people, the king returned to the palace. No one knew where he had been. Rumors said he had fallen sick. Others said he had traveled to a far kingdom, but he called for a festival. All the villagers and chiefs were invited. They came dressed in fine clothes, carrying gifts and sweet words. Baruti sat on his throne. His beard had grown. His eyes were sharp. He raised his hand. "Before the dancing begins, I want to tell a story." The hall grew quiet. He stood. I went among you as a poor man. I wore rags. I begged for food. I carried water for your houses. I met the kind and the cruel. I saw the truth behind the smiles. Gasps filled the hall. Some of you gave me bread. Others gave me insults. He pointed to the chief of Kambesa. You kicked me from your tree. The chief turned pale. He looked at the merchant. You struck me for walking slow. He looked at Daira. You gave me food without asking who I was. She blinked in shock. He raised his voice. The test was not to shame you. It was to learn. But now that I have seen your hearts, I will rule with my eyes open. The crowd bowed in silence. King Baruti made new laws. No man could be turned away from shade or water. Any child found hungry would be fed by the palace. Villagers could send complaints directly to the king through trusted messengers. He gave Daira a place in the royal kitchen and made her son a palace scribe. To those who showed cruelty, he sent letters of warning. Your pride almost lost you your place in this kingdom, he wrote. Some left in shame. Others begged for forgiveness. Baruti welcomed those who were ready to change. Years passed. The kingdom grew stronger not because of its army, but because the people respected their king. He had walked in their dust. He had felt their hunger. He had listened. Stories of King Baruti spread beyond the mountains. Other rulers sent messengers to learn how he ruled with both strength and kindness. Simba asked, Do you ever miss the days of walking in rags? Baruti smiled. No, but I will never forget them. He looked at the sky. Because a crown is only heavy, he said, when a king wears it without knowing the pain of those below it. And so, in the valley of Indira, the people remembered one truth for generations. The greatest king is the one who is willing to become the lowest man, just to understand the hearts of his people.